I am Sarah, a 32-year-old single mom with two amazing boys who light up my world. My sister Claire has always been the family perfectionist, judging my parenting from her pristine suburban throne. When she announced her daughter Emma's extravagant 10th birthday party, I expected the usual family gathering. What I never expected was the heart-shattering moment Claire declared my boys unwelcome because they were a bad influence. Where are you watching from today? Hit that like button and subscribe to follow along as I share how one magical Disney World trip taught my sister that nobody messes with my children. Being a single mom working as a nurse is no walk in the park. My schedule involves juggling 12-hour shifts at the hospital while making sure Ethan, 8, and Noah, 6, have everything they need. Some days, I barely have time to breathe between dropping them off at school, racing to work, picking them up, helping with homework, cooking dinner, and tucking them in with bedtime stories. Despite the chaos, I wouldn't trade my boys for anything in the world. Ethan is my little artist with an imagination that knows no bounds. He transforms cardboard boxes into spaceships and can spend hours creating elaborate drawings of dinosaurs and robots. Noah is my energetic ball of sunshine who excels at sports and making friends wherever he goes. Sure, they're spirited and occasionally rowdy, like most boys their age, but they're kind-hearted, respectful when it matters, and absolutely bursting with love. My parenting style has always been about balance. I believe in rules and consequences, but I also understand that children need space to express themselves, make mistakes, and learn from those experiences. My home isn't a showcase from a magazine spread. We have fingerprints on the windows, toys sometimes scattered across the living room floor, and science experiments gone wrong staining the kitchen counter. But there's laughter, genuine conversations, and the beautiful chaos that comes with raising curious children. My sister Claire couldn't be more different. Growing up, she was the perfect daughter who never missed a homework assignment, won every academic competition, and always pleased our parents. I was labeled the wild child simply because I preferred sports to studying and occasionally questioned authority. This dynamic followed us into adulthood, with Claire continuing to be the golden child in our parents' eyes. Claire married Daniel, a successful attorney, right after finishing law school. They settled in an exclusive neighborhood in Raleigh, North Carolina, with their daughter Emma in a house that looked like it belonged in Architectural Digest. Everything in Claire's world was curated for perfection, from her immaculate garden to the professionally decorated interior of her home. Her social media accounts showcased a flawless family life with photos of homemade organic meals and sophisticated family outings. Emma, their only child, reflected this carefully controlled environment. At 10 years old, she was polite, well-spoken, and accomplished in ballet and piano. She always wore pristine outfits, with not a hair out of place. While sweet-natured, Emma was noticeably reserved around other children, especially those who were more boisterous. I often wondered if all that perfectionism left room for a real childhood. Family gatherings at Claire's house were exercises in tension. My boys would arrive excited to see their cousin, only to face a barrage of rules. No running inside, no touching the decorative items, no raising voices, no playing in the formal living room. Every natural childlike behavior was met with Claire's disapproving glance. By contrast, when they visited our apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina, Emma would initially sit quietly, uncertain how to join in the fun, until my boys eventually coaxed her into building forts or playing tag in the backyard. Claire never directly criticized my parenting in those early years, but her comments were laced with judgment. I noticed Ethan has trouble sitting still during dinner. Have you considered having him tested? Or, Noah certainly has a lot of energy. Perhaps more structured activities would help channel that. Each observation was delivered with a smile but cut deep nonetheless. Despite these tensions, I worked hard to maintain family harmony. I prepared the boys before visits to Aunt Claire's house, reminding them about indoor voices and careful movements. I brought activities to keep them occupied and stepped in quickly if their excitement started bubbling over. Though exhausting, I believed family connections were important, especially since they had limited extended family after their father left when Noah was just 2 years old. Our parents, now in their 60s and living 30 minutes from Claire in Cary, North Carolina, complicated matters further. During family discussions, they typically sided with Claire on parenting approaches. "Sarah, dear, children do need structure," my mother would say after Claire commented on my boys playing in the mud during a family barbecue. My father would nod in agreement, adding, "Emma never gives Claire and Daniel any trouble." These comments stung, but I had grown accustomed to being the family disappointment. Last Thanksgiving illustrated our different worlds perfectly. Claire hosted in her formal dining room with name cards, crystal glasses, and a table setting worthy of a magazine spread. Ethan accidentally knocked over his water glass, sending liquid across the white tablecloth. The look of horror on Claire's face as she rushed for towels made him shrink in his chair. Later, I overheard her telling our mother, "This is exactly why we can't have nice things around those boys." That night, I reassured Ethan that accidents happen to everyone, but I could see the incident affected him deeply. Still, I persevered in maintaining our family connections, believing that cousins should grow up knowing each other despite our differences. Little did I know that Claire's judgment of my children was about to cross a line I couldn't ignore, triggering a chain of events that would forever change our family dynamics. Every year, Emma's birthday became an increasingly elaborate affair under Claire's direction. From professionally decorated princess parties to guided museum excursions, each celebration seemed designed more to impress adults than delight children. As Emma's 10th birthday approached in June, Claire began dropping hints about planning something truly special for this milestone. My boys adored their cousin despite the controlled nature of their interactions. When they heard about her upcoming birthday, they immediately wanted to create something special. One Saturday afternoon, our kitchen table disappeared under a sea of construction paper, markers, and glitter as Ethan and Noah crafted homemade cards for Emma. Ethan drew an elaborate picture of Emma as a superhero, while Noah created a card shaped like a birthday cake with 10 candles. Their excitement was contagious as they discussed what gifts they might save their allowance to buy. "Do you think Emma would like the friendship bracelet kit at the store?" Ethan asked, his face serious with consideration. "She always likes the ones I make at school." Noah nodded enthusiastically. "And we could get her that unicorn book she was looking at when we went to the bookstore." Their thoughtfulness toward their cousin warmed my heart. Despite the strained relationship with my sister, the children had formed their own bond, however limited their interactions might be. The following week, our parents invited the whole family for Sunday dinner at their house. These monthly gatherings were tradition, though they typically featured Claire dominating conversation, while I tried to keep the boys from fidgeting too much during the lengthy meals. That particular Sunday seemed no different at first, with Mom serving her famous pot roast while Dad discussed local politics with Daniel. Halfway through dinner, Claire clinked her water glass with a fork to get everyone's attention. "As you all know, Emma's 10th birthday is coming up in 3 weeks," she announced with a broad smile. "We've decided to host a garden party with a secret garden theme. Daniel's law firm partners and their families will attend, along with Emma's friends from school and ballet." "That sounds lovely, dear," Mom replied predictably. "Will you need help with anything?" "Actually, I've hired an event planner," Claire continued. "There will be a string quartet, a professional storyteller, a flower crown-making station, and a 3-tiered cake from that bakery featured in National Culinary Magazine." As Claire detailed more extravagant plans, I noticed my boys listening intently. Noah leaned over and whispered, "Mom, can we help decorate for Emma's party? I could blow up balloons really well now." I smiled and whispered back, "We'll see what Aunt Claire needs help with." What happened next still makes my stomach tighten remembering it. As Claire finished describing the garden party arrangements, she turned directly to me with an expression that combined pity and condescension. "Sarah, I wanted to discuss something with you about the party," she said, her voice suddenly lower. "Daniel and I have given this careful consideration, and we think it would be best if Ethan and Noah didn't attend this particular celebration." The table fell silent. I stared at my sister, certain I had misunderstood. "What do you mean?" I asked, my fork frozen midway to my mouth. Claire dabbed her lips with her napkin before continuing. "The partners from Daniel's firm are very important guests, and their children are, well, quite well behaved. Emma's party needs to be perfect. Your boys are simply too—" She paused, searching for words. "Energetic and unpredictable. They would be a bad influence on the atmosphere we're trying to create." Bad influence. Those two words echoed in my head as I felt blood rush to my face. I glanced at my sons, hoping they hadn't understood the implication, but Ethan's crestfallen expression told me otherwise. "Are you seriously uninviting my children from their only cousin's birthday party?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice level. Claire sighed as if I was being deliberately difficult. "It's not personal, Sarah. Your parenting choices are your business, but the boys simply lack the discipline needed for such an important event. Perhaps if you implemented more structure at home, worked on their behavior issues—" "Behavior issues?" I interrupted, my voice rising despite my efforts to remain calm. "They're normal, active boys. What exactly are these terrible behaviors you're referring to?" "Last Christmas they ran through the house," Claire counted off on her manicured fingers. "At Easter, they got chocolate on my sofa. Noah laughed too loudly during family photos last month. Ethan asked inappropriate questions about Daniel's colleague's wig." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These minor childlike behaviors were apparently enough to label my sons as unworthy of attending a family event. I looked to my parents for support, but found none. My father suddenly became very interested in his mashed potatoes, while my mother wore her conflict avoidance expression. "Mom, Dad, do you think this is reasonable?" I asked. My mother cleared her throat. "Well, dear, it's Claire and Daniel's event. They can invite whoever they want." The betrayal stung worse than Claire's exclusion. I noticed both my boys had stopped eating, their earlier excitement completely extinguished. "We should go," I said, standing up. "Boys, please get your jackets." "Sarah, don't overreact," Claire said sharply. "You're always so emotional. This is exactly the kind of behavior the boys learn from you." I ignored her as I helped Noah with his jacket zipper. Ethan moved robotically, his eyes downcast. As we headed for the door, I heard Emma's small voice ask, "Mommy, why can't Ethan and Noah come to my party? I made special invitations for them at school." I didn't stay to hear Claire's response. The drive home was painfully quiet. In the rearview mirror, I could see Noah wiping tears while Ethan stared out the window. Finally, Noah broke the silence. "Mom, why doesn't Aunt Claire want us at Emma's party? Did we do something bad?" His innocent question cracked my heart open. I pulled into a parking lot and turned to face my children. "No, sweetie. You and Ethan have done nothing wrong. Aunt Claire just has different ideas about parties than we do." "But Emma's our cousin," Ethan said, his voice uncharacteristically small. "Family's supposed to be together for birthdays. That's what you always say." "I know, honey. Sometimes adults make decisions that don't make sense." "Is it because I spilled juice on her rug last time?" Noah asked, his bottom lip trembling. I said sorry 3 times. No, Noah, this isn't your fault or Ethan's. This is grown-up stuff that you shouldn't worry about. But I could see the damage was already done. As we continued home, the boys quietly discussed the birthday cards they had made, Ethan suggesting maybe they should throw them away. That night, after tucking them in, I found myself sitting on my kitchen floor, crying silently with a mixture of hurt and rage. My children had been deemed unworthy by their own family, and I had failed to protect them from that judgment. Something had to change. This rejection wasn't something I could smooth over or ignore for the sake of family harmony. For the first time, I realized that maintaining peace at all costs was teaching my boys the wrong lesson. They deserved better, and somehow, I needed to show them that. The morning after the disastrous dinner, I called in a favor with my coworker Rachel to switch shifts so I could drop the boys at school and have some time to think. Once they were safely in their classrooms, I drove to a coffee shop and called Claire, hoping a night of reflection might have changed her perspective. "Sarah, I'm in the middle of client preparations," she answered, her voice clipped and professional as always. "This'll only take a minute," I assured her. "I wanted to talk about yesterday. Surely you see how hurtful it was to exclude Ethan and Noah from a family celebration." The sigh on the other end of the line was heavy with impatience. "I thought I made myself clear. This isn't just any party. Daniel's senior partners will be there, people who directly influence his partnership. Track. We can't afford any unpredictable elements." "Unpredictable elements? They're children, Claire. Your nephews. The only cousins Emma has. Children who broke the crystal figurine Mom gave me last Thanksgiving, who constantly interrupt adult conversations, who can't sit still during family dinners," Claire countered. "I've tried to be patient with your permissive parenting style, but some occasions require properly behaved children." Her words hit like physical blows. Properly behaved children, as opposed to what? Improperly behaved? My boys are kind, creative, and loving. They act like normal children their age. "Perhaps normal in your social circle," Claire replied, her voice dripping with condescension. "But Daniel and I have different standards. Even Mom and Dad agree the boys need more discipline." That stopped me cold. "You discussed this with Mom and Dad before yesterday?" "Of course. They understand our position completely. Dad mentioned how Noah threw pine cones in the garden during their anniversary party, and Mom said it was exhausting watching you constantly chase after them instead of having adult conversations." The revelation that my parents had been discussing my parenting behind my back sent a wave of betrayal washing over me. All those Sunday dinners where they had smiled and hugged the boys, all while judging them unworthy. Has anyone else been included in these discussions about my allegedly out-of-control children? I asked, my voice tight. Claire hesitated just long enough for me to know the answer before she spoke. Cousin Laura mentioned the boys were quite rowdy at her son's graduation party. Aunt Susan said similar things about the family reunion. It's a general observation, Sarah, not a personal attack. Not a personal attack. My entire family had apparently formed a consensus that my children were problematic, all while smiling to my face. I ended the call shortly after, sitting in my car as the implications sank in. That evening, I received a call from my mother. "Claire told me you're upset about Emma's party arrangements," she began without preamble. "Upset, Mom? She called my children a bad influence and uninvited them from their cousin's birthday. Of course I'm upset." "Dear, you know how important Daniel's career is to them. These law firm partners are very conservative people. Perhaps this is an opportunity to work on the boys' behavior. I could recommend that parenting book I mentioned last Christmas." I gripped my phone tighter. There's nothing wrong with my children's behavior. They're normal, active boys who occasionally make mistakes, like all children do. Normal is subjective, Sarah. When you were growing up, We had clear expectations for public behavior. Remember how beautifully Claire always conducted herself at family gatherings? Never a hair out of place, always using her please and thank yous. Yes, and look how well that turned out. She's so concerned with appearances that she's willing to hurt innocent children to maintain her perfect facade. My mother's voice hardened. That's unfair. Claire has worked very hard for the life she has. If you had applied yourself similarly, perhaps you wouldn't be so defensive about your choices. The conversation deteriorated from there, ending with my mother suggesting I needed to grow up and accept constructive feedback about my parenting. Over the next few days, the family divide grew deeper. My father called to express his disappointment in my overreaction. Aunt Susan texted, asking if everything was okay, saying she had heard about the situation with the boys from my mother. Even my cousin Laura, who I had always been close with, sent a message suggesting a parenting podcast that had really helped with her son's attention issues. The worst came when Ethan returned from school upset, saying his teacher had pulled him aside to ask if everything was okay at home. Apparently, Aunt Susan's daughter worked at the school and had mentioned something about family concerns regarding my parenting. The gossip had spread beyond family into our community. That evening, I overheard Noah asking Ethan in their bedroom, "Are we bad kids? Grandma told me on the phone we need to learn better manners." Ethan's response broke my heart. "I think we must be. Everyone keeps saying we're too loud and messy. Maybe that's why Dad left." I stepped away from their door, tears streaming down my face. The innocent conversation revealed how deeply the family's judgment had affected them. My sweet boys were internalizing the criticism, believing something was fundamentally wrong with them. Noah had become noticeably quieter around family members, while Ethan had started apologizing for normal behaviors like laughing too loudly or getting excited about his interests. The following weekend, we attended a small family gathering at my parents' house. I noticed immediately how the boys sat stiffly on the couch, barely touching the snacks offered, answering questions with whispered one-word responses. When Emma tried to show them her new tablet, they looked to me first, as if seeking permission to interact with her. Their natural exuberance had been replaced by anxious self-consciousness. Watching them police their every movement while Claire nodded approvingly at their subdued behavior was the final straw. These were not my confident, joyful boys. The family's judgment had dimmed their lights, made them doubt themselves, and I had allowed it to happen by prioritizing family peace over their emotional well-being. That night, I called my best friend Emily, one of the few people who truly understood our situation as a fellow single mom. "They've made my children feel like they're fundamentally flawed, Emily," I told her, finally releasing the full extent of my anger and hurt. "Ethan actually asked me yesterday if something was wrong with them." "That's absolutely unacceptable," Emily responded firmly. "You know your boys are amazing. This is about Claire's insecurities, not your parenting." I've tried so hard to maintain family relationships, to not rock the boat. But at what cost? Sarah, listen to me. This pattern has been going on your whole life from what you've told me. Claire sets the standard, your parents enforce it, and you're expected to fall in line. But you're a grown woman now and a damn good mother. Your children deserve to see you stand up for them. Her words crystallized something I had been feeling since that Sunday dinner. I had spent years accommodating my family's judgment, making excuses for their behavior, trying to earn approval that was never forthcoming, all while my children watched and learned that their worth was conditional. "You're right," I said, a new determination forming. "It's time I showed my boys what it means to value yourself even when others don't. No more apologizing for who we are." As I hung up, an idea began taking shape. If Claire wanted to exclude us from her perfect party, fine. but I would show my boys that rejection from others didn't determine their value. I would give them a celebration that honored exactly who they were: messy, energetic, and absolutely perfect in my eyes. The idea came to me as I scrolled past a Disney World advertisement on my phone. Ethan had mentioned wanting to go for years, and Noah had a Mickey Mouse plush he slept with every night. What if, instead of sitting at home feeling excluded on the day of Emma's elaborate garden party, we were having the adventure of a lifetime? I pulled up the Disney World website and checked the dates. The weekend of Emma's party was actually perfect timing, falling during a promotional period with slightly reduced ticket prices. Still, the cost was significant for our single-income household. 3 days at Disney World, including hotel, park tickets, food, and souvenirs, would consume most of my modest savings. I hesitated briefly, thinking about the practical uses for that money. The boys needed new school clothes for fall. The apartment could use fresh paint. My car was making a concerning noise that would eventually need addressing. But as I remembered the hurt in their eyes, the way they had started to shrink themselves to meet my family's impossible standards, I made my decision. This was an investment in their self-esteem, in showing them that they deserved joy and celebration exactly as they were. I booked the package deal before I could second-guess myself, scheduling our departure for early Friday morning before Emma's Saturday afternoon party. With the financial aspect sorted, I faced the logistical challenge of getting time off work. As a nurse working regular weekday shifts, requesting weekend days off usually required weeks of advance notice. I approached my supervisor, Maria, the next day, explaining the situation without revealing all the family drama. My sister excluded my kids from their cousin's birthday party because she thinks they're too rowdy, I admitted. I want to take them somewhere special that weekend to show them they matter. Maria, a mother of 4 herself, immediately understood. Family stuff can be the hardest, she said sympathetically. Let me see what I can do. Through a small miracle of scheduling and the generosity of my colleagues, we arranged coverage for my Friday and Monday shifts. Rachel, who had been trying to get extra hours anyway, happily took my shifts in exchange for me covering hers the following week. With time off secured and reservations made, I faced the decision of when to tell the boys. I wanted to maximize their excitement but was concerned about them accidentally mentioning it to family members before we left. 1 week before our trip seemed the perfect compromise. I spent that week secretly preparing, ordering special Disney t-shirts for each day, purchasing travel snacks, and researching the best attractions for their age groups. I created a folder with printed maps, reservations, and a loose itinerary that balanced structure with plenty of room for spontaneous fun. Meanwhile, Claire continued planning Emma's party, oblivious to my counterplot. She called twice that week, once to inform me that she had told Emma we would be unable to attend her party, and once to ask if I could pick up some specialty party supplies from a store near my apartment. I agreed to the errand, maintaining the pretense that everything was normal while secretly counting down the days until our escape. 5 days before our trip, my mother called to apply more guilt. Emma asked again why her cousins won't be at her party, she reported. Claire told her you had other commitments that day. I hope you're not deliberately scheduling something just to be difficult. Mom, Claire made it very clear that my children aren't welcome at this event. She can't expect me to drop them off somewhere while I attend alone. Well, Laura said she'd be happy to watch them for a few hours so you could at least make an appearance. The casual cruelty of this suggestion, that I should leave my excluded children with a babysitter to attend the very event they had been deemed unworthy of, left me momentarily speechless. That won't be necessary, I finally managed. We already have plans. The evening before I planned to tell the boys about our trip, I found Ethan sitting quietly in his room, working on something at his desk instead of playing video games during his usual screen time. "What are you working on, buddy?" I asked. He quickly covered the paper with his arm. "Nothing." Gently, I moved his arm to reveal a carefully drawn birthday card for Emma, even more elaborate than his first attempt. This one featured Emma surrounded by butterflies and flowers, with "Happy 10th birthday to the best cousin" written in his neatest handwriting. "I thought you weren't invited to the party," I said softly. Ethan shrugged, not meeting my eyes. "I'm not, but she's still my cousin. I thought maybe we could mail it or something." His kindness in the face of rejection made my decision feel even more right. These were not badly behaved children. They were compassionate, thoughtful boys who deserved to be celebrated, not criticized. The next morning, I woke them up with Mickey Mouse-shaped pancakes for breakfast. As they sleepily stumbled to the table, I placed Disney World park maps beside their plates. "What are these for?" Noah asked, rubbing his eyes. "Those are to help you plan which rides you want to go on first," I answered casually. It took a moment for my words to register. Ethan looked from the map to me and back again, his eyes widening. "Mom, are we going to Disney World?" he whispered, as if saying it too loudly might make the possibility disappear. "Yes. We leave Friday morning for 3 whole days of Disney magic." The explosion of joy that followed was worth every penny I had spent and every logistical hurdle I had overcome. They jumped up and down, firing questions faster than I could answer them. Was Space Mountain scary? Could they meet Spider-Man? How many churros could they eat? Would we stay until the fireworks? "This is happening on Emma's birthday weekend," Ethan asked suddenly, his excitement momentarily dimming. "Is it because we can't go to her party?" I sat down, pulling them both close. "Partly, yes, but mostly because you two deserve a special celebration just for being the amazing boys you are. Sometimes, when people make you feel bad about yourself, the best response is to go create your own joy." Their excitement renewed. They spent the evening poring over the park maps, creating detailed lists of must-see attractions. I watched them plotting their adventure, their recent subdued behavior completely gone, replaced by the vibrant enthusiasm that was their natural state. The next day, I carefully packed our suitcases while they were at school, hiding them in my closet. That evening, Claire called again about party preparations. "I'll need you to come early Saturday to help set up the flower arrangements," she stated, not bothering with a greeting. "The florist is delivering at 9, but they'll need assembly." "I can't help with setup, Claire. As I told Mom, we have plans this weekend." "What plans could possibly be more important than family?" she demanded, echoing our mother's words. "You made it clear my family isn't welcome at your event," I replied evenly. "So my family will be elsewhere." "You're being childish," she snapped. "This is exactly the kind of petty behavior the boys learn from watching you." "Goodbye, Claire. I hope Emma has a wonderful birthday." I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. For once, I wasn't twisting myself into knots, trying to accommodate her impossible standards while protecting my children from her judgment. We were choosing joy instead of seeking approval, and it felt wonderfully liberating. The night before our departure, the boys were too excited to sleep. I let them stay up a little later than usual, finalizing our Disney strategy. As they finally drifted off, Mickey Mouse plushies clutched tight. I carefully loaded our suitcases into the car, preparing for our early morning departure. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Mother says you're taking the boys on some sort of trip instead of helping with Emma's party. I hope you realize how hurtful this is to Emma." I turned off my phone without responding. Tomorrow would be about my children, their happiness, and our family of 3. The guilt trips and judgment would have to wait. We left our apartment before dawn, the boys still in their pajamas as I buckled them into the back seat. They dozed as we drove the first hour, the sky gradually lightening from black to purple to the soft gold of early morning. When they fully woke, the car filled with excited chatter and Disney songs from the playlist I had created specially for our road trip. "Mom, how much longer?" Noah asked for perhaps the 20th time, bouncing in his seat as the landscape gave way to the suburbs surrounding Orlando, Florida. "Just about 20 minutes now," I answered, unable to keep the smile from my face. Their excitement was contagious, washing away the stress and hurt of recent weeks. "Look, I can see the top of Cinderella's castle," Ethan shouted suddenly, pointing out the window. Sure enough, the distinctive spires were visible in the distance, drawing gasps from both boys. Parking and navigating the tram system took some time, but nothing could dampen their spirits. As we finally stepped onto Main Street, USA, the look of wonder on their faces made every sacrifice worthwhile. Noah grabbed my hand tightly, while Ethan stood motionless, trying to absorb every detail of the magical scene before him. "It's even better than I imagined," he whispered. Our first day unfolded in a blur of joy. We rode Space Mountain twice in a row, laughing hysterically as we got soaked on Splash Mountain when we deliberately sat in the front row. We spun on teacups until we were dizzy, waited patiently to meet Mickey and Minnie, and collected character autographs in the special books I had bought them. What struck me most was how well-behaved my supposedly undisciplined children were. They waited their turns in lines without complaint, said please and thank you to every cast member, and even helped a younger child who dropped her popcorn by offering some of theirs. These were the same boys my sister had deemed too rowdy and unpredictable to attend a garden party. Throughout the day, I took dozens of photos and videos, capturing their delight as they experienced the magic for the first time. While waiting in line for Peter Pan's flight, I uploaded a few pictures to my Instagram with the caption, "Day 1 of our surprise Disney adventure, making memories with my amazing boys." Within minutes, my phone began buzzing with notifications. Family members, friends, and co-workers all expressed surprise and delight at our unexpected trip. I noticed my mother had commented, "This seems very last minute. Hope everything is okay." Her subtle dig at my spontaneity and implied financial irresponsibility might have bothered me before, but surrounded by my children's happiness, it barely registered. We ended our first day with dinner at a restaurant where princesses visited each table. Noah, despite his earlier claims that princesses were just for girls, was completely starstruck when Snow White asked about his favorite part of the park. Ethan engaged Cinderella in a serious discussion about how her glass slippers stayed intact, when regular glass would shatter under walking pressure, making the princess laugh delightedly at his scientific curiosity. Back at our hotel, exhausted but exhilarated, the boys fell asleep almost instantly. I checked my phone to find 3 missed calls from Claire and 1 from my mother. There was also a text from Emma sent from Claire's phone. "Where are you? I miss my cousins." That one tugged at my heart, knowing Emma was an innocent party in all this. I decided to respond to Emma's message with a photo of Mickey Mouse and a promise to bring her back something special, but I ignored the other calls. Tonight was not about family drama. It was about savoring the pure joy we had experienced. The second day of our adventure dawned bright and clear. The boys woke with renewed energy, ready to conquer Disney's Hollywood studios. We rode the Star Wars, Rise of the Resistance attraction, braved the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, and met superhero characters that left Ethan speechless with admiration. Each magical moment erased a little more of the hurt that had been inflicted on them. Around 2 p.m., right when Emma's garden party would be starting, I gathered the boys for a special photo in front of Cinderella's castle. They wore their matching Disney shirts, faces glowing with happiness, Mickey ears perched on their heads. "Smile, big guys. This one's special," I told them as I adjusted the frame to capture the perfect shot. The resulting photo was everything I had hoped for. My boys, uninhibited and radiant with joy, the iconic castle behind them, and not a trace of the self-consciousness that had plagued them in recent family gatherings. I posted it immediately with the caption, "Creating magical memories with the two best boys any mother could ask for. No place I'd rather be today than celebrating life with these amazing kids. Blessed modern Disney adventure fun perfect day." The timing was deliberate, and I knew it. As Emma's carefully orchestrated garden party with its string quartet and flower crowns was beginning, our unabashed celebration of simple family joy would be appearing on the social media feeds of every family member and mutual friend. The response was immediate and overwhelming. My phone began buzzing continuously with notifications. Friends and colleagues left supportive comments about what a great mom I was. Several of my cousins liked the photo. Even Aunt Susan, who had been part of the Judgment Coalition, commented, "The boys look so happy. What a wonderful surprise for them." More tellingly were the missed calls that began accumulating. "Claire, my mother, my father, Claire again." I silenced my phone and put it away. Today was not about them. We continued our magical day, having lunch with Goofy, exploring Toy Story Land, and buying specially embroidered Mickey ears with their names stitched in gold thread. Throughout the afternoon and evening, I continued posting photos and short videos documenting our joy without directly mentioning why we were there instead of at Emma's party. That evening, as we watched the spectacular fireworks display over the castle, Noah leaned against me, his eyes wide with wonder. "Mom, is this the best day ever?" he asked. "What do you think, buddy?" I replied, putting my arm around his shoulders. "It's definitely the best day ever," he decided firmly. "Way better than some boring garden party." Ethan, more perceptive as always, took my other hand. "Thanks for bringing us here instead of making us feel bad about not being invited to Emma's party. I was really sad about it, but this is so much better." His honesty brought tears to my eyes. "You two deserve all the happiness in the world. Never let anyone make you feel like you're not good enough exactly as you are." Our final day at Disney was more relaxed, revisiting favorite rides and exploring corners of the park we had missed. The boys spent some of their souvenir money on a gift for Emma, a beautiful music box with Cinderella that played "A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes." Their thoughtfulness, despite their own exclusion, spoke volumes about their character. Before heading home, I posted one last photo of the three of us with Mickey and Minnie on either side, with the caption, "Memories to last a lifetime. Reminder to self and my boys. Never let anyone dim your light to make others more comfortable with their darkness. Choose joy. Family first." As we began the drive home, I finally checked my messages. 27 missed calls, dozens of texts ranging from Claire's fury to my mother's guilt trips to expressions of concern from other family members. Even Daniel had called, something unprecedented in our family dynamic. One message from my mother stood out. "Emma was in tears when she saw your Disney pictures. How could you be so deliberately hurtful to an innocent child?" The irony was almost too much. Now they were concerned about children's feelings being hurt. Where was this concern when my boys were explicitly rejected and labeled as problems? Still, I felt a twinge of regret that Emma had been caught in the crossfire. She was, after all, just a child herself, likely with little say in her mother's decisions. I would make sure the boys gave her their gift and spent time with their cousin soon, separate from the adult drama. As we neared home, Ethan asked quietly from the back seat, "Are Aunt Claire and Grandma going to be mad at us for going to Disney?" "Not at you, honey. They might be upset with me for my choices, but that's for me to handle. You did nothing wrong." "But we had the best time ever," Noah added, confused by the potential conflict. That's right, I agreed firmly. And sometimes, having the best time ever is exactly what we need, even if others don't understand. We arrived home late, tired but filled with precious memories. As I tucked the boys into bed, surrounded by their new Disney treasures, I felt stronger than I had in years. For once, I had prioritized my children's joy over my family's approval, and the freedom was intoxicating. The confrontation that awaited would not be easy, but I was finally ready to stand my ground. My children deserved a mother who defended their worth, who showed them how to create joy rather than constantly seek validation from those who withheld it conditionally. The Disney World photos spreading across social media had made my statement clear. We were done apologizing for who we were. The morning after our return from Disney World, reality came crashing back. My phone displayed 42 missed calls and over 60 unread messages. Scrolling through them revealed an escalating pattern of family reaction, confusion, concern, anger, and finally outrage. Claire's messages evolved from, "Where are you? Mother says you're at Disney World," to, "I can't believe you would deliberately sabotage Emma's special day like this. Your immaturity and jealousy have reached new heights." My parents' texts echoed similar sentiments, with my father calling my Disney trip a childish stunt, unbecoming of a mother. I made breakfast for the boys, who were still riding high on Disney magic, comparing their souvenirs and reliving their favorite moments. Watching them eat Mickey-shaped waffles while debating whether Space Mountain or Star Wars. Rise of the Resistance was the better ride. I knew I had made the right decision, regardless of the family fallout. After dropping them at school, I finally called my mother, figuring she would be the most reasonable starting point. "Well, look who finally decided to acknowledge her family," she answered tartly. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Taken my children on a wonderful vacation, after they were explicitly uninvited from a family event," I suggested calmly. "You deliberately upstaged Emma's birthday party. Every guest was talking about your Disney photos instead of focusing on Emma." Claire had to turn off her phone because people kept asking why her nephews were at Disney World instead of the party. I hadn't anticipated this particular consequence, but couldn't deny a small flicker of satisfaction. That wasn't my intention. We simply enjoyed our trip and shared our happiness, just like Claire shares all her perfect family moments. Sarah Elizabeth, don't play innocent. You timed those castle photos precisely when the party was starting. Emma saw them and asked why she couldn't go to Disney World with her cousins instead of having a garden party. She cried for nearly an hour. That genuinely made me feel bad. I'm sorry Emma was upset. The boys even bought her a special gift. But I won't apologize for giving my children joy after they were rejected from a family celebration and labeled as problems. No one called them problems, my mother protested weakly. Claire literally called them a bad influence and said they lacked discipline. You and Dad agreed with her assessment. How do you think that made them feel? Ethan has been asking if something's wrong with him. Noah thought his normal child behaviors were why their father left us. The silence on the other end suggested my words had hit home. Finally, my mother sighed. Perhaps things got out of hand, but your response was immature and vindictive. My response was to protect my children and show them they deserve celebration exactly as they are. If that disrupted the perfect party narrative, so be it. We ended the call in a stalemate, neither fully conceding to the other's perspective. Throughout the day, I received more messages, including several from extended family members who seemed almost impressed by my stand against Claire's perfectionism. Cousin Laura texted, "Saw your Disney pics. Boys looked happier than I've seen them in ages. Sometimes Mama Bear needs to roar." I was preparing dinner when the doorbell rang aggressively multiple times in succession. Through the peephole, I saw Claire standing there, her perfect appearance slightly disheveled, her expression thunderous. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. She pushed past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. 20 years of friendship with Daniel's senior partner, completely overshadowed by your petty revenge Disney trip. She spat without preamble. Do you have any idea how this made us look? Hello to you too, Claire, I replied, keeping my voice level. The boys are in their rooms if you came to see your nephews, the ones you called a bad influence and banned from your daughter's party. Don't deflect. You deliberately sabotaged Emma's birthday. Every guest was talking about your ridiculous photos. 3 different partners' wives asked me why my nephews were at Disney World instead of supporting their cousin. What was I supposed to say? The truth, perhaps. That you decided they weren't well behaved enough to attend your perfect party. Claire's face flushed. I never said that. I said the event required a certain atmosphere that active boys might disrupt. You called them a bad influence, I reminded her, to their faces at a family dinner. Do you have any idea what that did to them? Noah cried himself to sleep that night. For a moment, something like guilt flickered across her face, but she quickly rallied. You're exaggerating as usual. Children need to learn that different occasions have different behavior expectations. If you had taught them proper manners from the beginning. There's nothing wrong with my children's manners, I interrupted, my calm beginning to fracture. They say, please and thank you. They help others. They wait patiently in lines. They show compassion to those around them. Do you know what the Disney cast members said about them? That they were some of the most polite children they'd encountered, the same children you deemed unworthy of attending a garden party. This isn't about whether they say please and thank you. Claire's voice rose sharply. This is about your deliberate attempt to overshadow Emma's special day out of spite. No, this is about you excluding my children from a family event because they didn't fit your perfect image. This is about our entire family treating my boys like they're somehow defective because they act like normal, healthy children. This is about me finally refusing to let my kids believe they're not good enough because they don't meet your impossible standards. Our voices had grown louder, and I suddenly noticed both boys standing in the hallway, watching wide-eyed as their mother and aunt faced off. I took a deep breath, trying to modulate my tone. Boys, please go back to your rooms for a few minutes while Aunt Claire and I finish our conversation. Are we in trouble for going to Disney? Noah asked in a small voice. Before I could answer, Claire surprised me by kneeling down to their level. No, Noah, you're not in trouble for going to Disney. I'm just upset with your mom about something else. As the boys reluctantly returned to their rooms, Claire straightened up, her anger seemingly deflated. She sank onto my couch, suddenly looking tired. Emma has barely spoken to me since the party, she admitted quietly. She told Daniel and me that she never wanted a fancy garden party. She wanted a sleepover with her cousins and a few friends from ballet class. When she saw your Disney pictures, she asked why we couldn't have done something fun like that instead. This revelation stunned me. You planned that entire, elaborate event without considering what Emma actually wanted? Daniel's position at the firm is at a critical juncture. The partners needed to see us as socially competent, family-oriented. She trailed off, perhaps hearing how shallow her justification sounded. So you sacrificed what your daughter wanted for your husband's career advancement and excluded my children in the process. Claire looked away. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I thought a sophisticated party would impress Emma too. All her classmates talked about it for weeks beforehand. Did you even ask her if she wanted her cousins there? Claire's silence was answer enough. She asked me. I pressed on. The night you uninvited them at dinner, Emma specifically asked why Ethan and Noah couldn't come. I heard her. She made them invitations at school. Claire admitted quietly. She had them hidden in her desk. I found them when I was checking her homework. She cried when I explained they wouldn't be attending. The realization hit me. This was never about the boys being a bad influence. You were embarrassed by them. You were worried they wouldn't impress Daniel's colleagues with their polite conversation and perfect manners. Children at these kinds of functions are expected to be seen and not heard, Claire said defensively. Your boys are wonderful, but they're exuberant and unpredictable. I couldn't risk Daniel's partnership track. So, you sacrificed your nephew's feelings and your daughter's wishes for social climbing, I summarized bluntly. And now you're angry because my alternative plans made your perfect party look less appealing by comparison. Claire stood up abruptly. You have no idea the pressure we're under, the standards we have to maintain. Everything is a competition in our circle. That sounds exhausting, I said genuinely, but it doesn't excuse hurting innocent children. Before she could respond, my phone rang. It was my father, his name flashing on the screen. I answered, putting it on speaker. Sarah, is your sister there? She left our house in quite a state after seeing more of your Disney pictures. Yes, she's here. We're discussing the situation. My father's sigh was audible. This has all gone too far. Your mother and I have been talking, and we owe you an apology. His words shocked both Claire and me into silence. We should have spoken up when Claire suggested excluding the boys from the party. We knew it was wrong, but we didn't want to cause conflict. That was a mistake. I sat down, unprepared for this turn of events. Thank you for saying that, Dad. The boys are good kids, Sarah. Energetic? Yes, but good-hearted. We should have defended them, and you. Instead, we enabled a hurtful situation. Claire stared at the phone, visibly processing our father's unexpected stance. After he hung up, with promises to talk more soon, she gathered her purse, her movements stiff and controlled. I should go. Daniel's waiting in the car. At the door, she paused. The boys bought something for Emma, a musical Cinderella jewelry box. They spent their souvenir money on it. Something softened in her expression. Perhaps they could come over this weekend to give it to her. She's been asking about them. It was a small olive branch, but I recognized it for what it was. They'd like that. And Claire, next time, just ask Emma what she actually wants for her birthday. After she left, I called the boys out from their rooms. They emerged cautiously, clearly having heard portions of our heated exchange. Is everything okay, Mom? Ethan asked. Aunt Claire seemed really mad. I pulled them both into a hug. Everything's going to be fine. Sometimes adults have disagreements, but we work through them. The important thing is that I'm incredibly proud of both of you, and nothing will ever change that. Even when we're loud or messy? Noah asked. Especially then, I assured him. Because that's part of being a wonderful, curious, energetic child, and I wouldn't change either of you for all the perfect garden parties in the world. As they returned to their rooms, comforted by my words and the promise of delivering Emma's gift personally, I reflected on the confrontation. It had been painful and raw, but perhaps necessary. For the first time, I had refused to accept my family's judgment of my parenting or my children. And unexpectedly, that stance had begun to shift the power dynamics that had controlled our family for decades. The 2 weeks following our confrontation passed in strange, tense silence. No calls from my parents, no group texts from Claire about family gatherings. It was as if the family was collectively processing the dramatic shift in our usual dynamics. Part of me worried about permanent damage to relationships, while another part felt relief at the break from constant judgment. The silence was broken by an unexpected text message, not from Claire or my parents, but from 10-year-old Emma, using her mother's phone. Hi, Aunt Sarah. Can Ethan and Noah come play at the park on Saturday? I miss them. Her simple request melted some of the lingering tension in my heart. Whatever issues existed between the adults, the children deserved to maintain their relationship. I arranged a meeting at the neutral territory of Freedom Park, halfway between our homes. Saturday arrived with perfect weather for a playground outing. The boys were nervous but excited, clutching the carefully wrapped jewelry box as we approached the park. Claire and Emma were already there, sitting stiffly on a bench. But when Emma spotted her cousins, she broke away from her mother and ran toward them with uncharacteristic abandon. "You went to Disney World," she exclaimed, her usual reserve completely gone. "Was it amazing? Did you meet Elsa? Did you ride all the scary rides?" Just like that, the cousins fell back into their natural rhythm, with Emma asking endless questions about Disney while the boys shared their adventures. I approached Claire cautiously, taking a seat beside her on the bench. "Thanks for arranging this," I said simply. She nodded, her eyes following the children as they headed for the swings. Emma has talked about nothing but seeing her cousins all week. She made me promise we'd stay at least 2 hours. We sat in awkward silence for several minutes, watching the children play. Finally, Claire spoke, her voice softer than usual. "Emma told Daniel and me that she feels like she can't be herself at home, that we expect her to be perfect all the time." She swallowed hard. She said she wishes she could be more like Ethan and Noah because they seem happy. The admission clearly cost her considerable pride. I resisted the urge to point out how often I had tried to tell her this very thing. "Kids are perceptive," I offered instead. "They internalize our expectations, spoken and unspoken." "I always thought I was doing what was best for her," Claire continued, "giving her advantages I didn't have, teaching her how to succeed in a competitive world." "There's nothing wrong with wanting your child to succeed," I acknowledged. "But success looks different for different people. Maybe for Emma, success includes having the freedom to be a child sometimes." Claire watched as Emma laughed uproariously at something Noah said, her careful hairstyle coming undone as she raced around the playground. I can't remember the last time I heard her laugh like that. The children played for nearly 3 hours, reluctant to end their reunion. When they finally returned to our bench, flushed and happy, the boys presented Emma with her Disney gift. Her delight was genuine as she wound the music box, watching Cinderella twirl to the familiar melody. "Mom, can Ethan and Noah come over next weekend?" Emma asked Claire. "We can build that fort in the backyard you never let me make." Claire hesitated only briefly before nodding. "I think that would be fine, as long as your aunt agrees." It was a small step, but a significant one. The following week brought another unexpected development. My father called, asking if he and my mother could visit for dinner. Unsure what to expect, I agreed cautiously. They arrived bearing the boys' favorite ice cream and new art supplies, clear peace offerings that were enthusiastically received. After the boys retreated to their rooms with their treasures, my parents and I sat at the kitchen table for a long overdue conversation. "We've been doing a lot of thinking," my father began awkwardly, "about family dynamics, about how we've treated you and the boys over the years." My mother reached across the table to take my hand. "We realized we've always held you to Claire's standards, which was never fair to you or your children. You're different people with different strengths." My father continued, "We enabled a situation where Claire's preferences and judgments became the family standard. That was wrong, and it hurt you and the boys." Their acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. For years, I had craved this recognition, this validation that my different approach to life and parenting wasn't wrong, just different. "The boys are wonderful children," my mother added. "Energetic and spirited, yes, but also kind and thoughtful. We should have defended them when Claire excluded them from the party. We're sorry." The apology, though overdue, was healing. We talked for hours that night, honestly addressing patterns that had existed since my childhood. They listened as I explained how their constant comparison of me to Claire had shaped my self-image and how their criticism of my parenting had affected my confidence as a mother. Though uncomfortable, the conversation laid groundwork for a healthier relationship moving forward. 6 months after the Disney trip incident, our family landscape had shifted significantly. The boys now visited Emma regularly, sometimes at her house, where Claire had gradually relaxed some of her strictest rules. One surprising afternoon, I arrived to pick them up and found all three children covered in mud from an enthusiastic gardening project, with Claire laughing instead of fretting about the mess. The most unexpected change came from Daniel, who confessed during a family barbecue that he had always thought my boys were perfectly normal children. Truth be told, he admitted quietly while helping me carry dishes to the kitchen, I grew up much more like your boys than Claire knows. My parents let me climb trees and make noise. All this perfection stuff comes from Claire's insecurities, not mine. His insight helped me understand my sister better. Her drive for perfection wasn't malice, but fear. Fear of not measuring up, of losing control, of failing at the impossible standards she had set for herself and, by extension, her family. Gradually, Claire began showing small signs of relaxing her grip on her carefully constructed image. She posted candid photos of Emma with messy hair and ice cream on her face. She admitted during a sister's lunch that she had started seeing a therapist to address her anxiety about perfection. She even asked me, somewhat hesitantly, for advice when Emma expressed interest in soccer, an activity Claire knew nothing about. Most telling was the change in Emma herself. After spending more time with her cousins in an environment where she could be herself, she blossomed. The reserved, always proper child developed a silly side, discovered a love for building things, and started standing up for her own preferences more often. Claire reported with a mixture of pride and bewilderment that Emma's teacher had commented on her increased confidence and leadership skills. As for my boys, they healed from the rejection more quickly than I expected. Bolstered by our Disney adventure and the subsequent changes in family dynamics, they remained their authentic selves, energetic, occasionally messy, always curious, but now without the shadow of family judgment hanging over them. Ethan stopped apologizing for his enthusiasm, and Noah no longer asked if he was being too loud during family gatherings. My own journey of healing took longer. Years of internalizing family criticism had left deeper marks than I realized. With encouragement from Emily, I started therapy to address my people-pleasing tendencies and learn to set healthier boundaries. I practiced speaking up when comments felt judgmental, rather than swallowing my feelings to keep the peace. The Disney photos remained displayed prominently in our apartment, reminders of the weekend that had catalyzed such significant change. On a warm Sunday afternoon, almost a year after the infamous Disney trip, our extended family gathered at a local park for a picnic. As I watched the children playing freely, the adults conversing without the undercurrent of judgment that had previously defined our gatherings, I reflected on the lessons of the past year. I had learned that sometimes standing up for your children means rocking the boat, even when every instinct tells you to maintain peace, that healthy relationships require honest communication, even when those conversations are difficult, that long-established family patterns can change, but only when someone is brave enough to break the cycle. Most importantly, I had shown my boys that they were worth fighting for exactly as they were. Not perfect, not always quiet or clean or conventionally well-behaved, but perfectly themselves. The confidence this knowledge gave them was evident in how they moved through the world, secure in the understanding that their worth wasn't conditional on meeting others' expectations. As the sun began to set on our family gathering, Ethan approached me with a thoughtful expression. "Mom, remember when Aunt Claire said we were a bad influence and couldn't go to Emma's party?" "I do, buddy," I answered, wondering where this was going. I think it turned out okay in the end, he said, surprising me. We got to go to Disney, and now Emma gets to have more fun because Aunt Claire isn't so strict anymore. Sometimes bad things turn into good things, right? His simple wisdom struck me deeply. You're absolutely right. Sometimes the hardest moments lead to the best changes. He ran off to rejoin the game, leaving me with a profound sense of gratitude for the journey we had taken. The pain of rejection had ultimately led to healing, not just for my children, but for our entire family system. By refusing to accept the narrative that my children were somehow less worthy, I had helped create space for all of us to be more authentically ourselves. The magic had never been in Disney World itself, though those memories would be treasured forever. The real magic was in showing my boys that they were worth standing up for, worth celebrating, worth choosing joy over approval. That lesson would serve them long after the Disney glow faded, guiding them toward authentic lives built on self-worth rather than external validation. Have you ever had to stand up for your children against family judgment? Or maybe you were the child who needed someone to stand up for you. Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about finding strength through difficult family situations. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing we can do as parents is simply to believe in our children exactly as they are.